know if we're live or not. Probably not, because YouTube, no 5x5. Hairy eyeball. There we go. Can you hear me now? Are we here now? Is it the 12th of June? Am I Bear from the internet? JM 5x9. Berkey. Roger. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bear from the internet. What do you mean from the internet? Like from bearindependent.com. It's a little URL we own. 25. Striker Cade gets it. Good morning, Striker Cade. We're going to do the brief this morning. We've got a written brief on the Israel-Hamas ceasefire. We're going to talk about Hunter's conviction, and more importantly, because I don't think he's going to see any jail time, spoiler alert, his laptop that the intelligence community has said for years doesn't exist, never existed. Russian propaganda. And that IRS whistleblowers are saying, and have been saying, has never been properly investigated. And it's never been properly investigated because a whole bunch of Hunter's dirty business deals and Daddy's dirty business deals are on the laptop as well. Not to be confused with Daddy's dirty britches, because he poops his pants a whole bunch, but his dirty business deals. And we're also going to look at only 8, only this many. It's just this many ISIS known terrorists arrested here in the United States of America that somehow, coincidentally, happen to just float across our porous southern border. Now, before we do that, if you're not subscribed and you want to be, subscribe, ring the little bell icon, do all the YouTube things, comment for the YouTube algorithmic robots. If you were previously subscribed, please make sure that you're still subscribed, because the YouTube algo, es no fano del barro. Okay, yeah, that's Spanglish. Now, the show is brought to you by the creator of the universe, the Lord your God, who you may not believe in, but he does believe in you. And at some point, them chickens are going to come home to roost, homie. It's also brought to you by the fine people on Patreon. The link is in the description. It's $10 a month. Best $10 you can spend on the internet. We talked about chainsaws for SHTF and for storms this morning. And it's brought to you by Refuge Medical, of whom I'm the CEO and also Chief Shilling Officer, because I wear many, many hats. And yesterday, I got an email, which I will read part of to you, the main part, assuming El Telefono will look. Life saved. Combine that with 21 through, which our buddy John does an awesome job running. Our buddy Curtis works with John running it, which is a nonprofit here in the state of Oklahoma that provides trauma medicine kits to law enforcement officers at no cost in the state of Oklahoma. So Refuge Medical, 104 lives, praise the Most High. Project Tribute, 21 lives, praise the Most High, for a total of 125 lives saved to date. So I'm going to read this to you, because this may be you, or it may be somebody you know. And then we'll get into the brief. Baron team, I'm writing this so you can use this as an opportunity to remind others that the life you save may be your own. And to those who know addicts, they may need a bleeding control kit as well. Feel free to use anything I say however you choose. Thankfully, I had watched Bear Nation and ordered several IFAKs and bleeding control kits for hiking. I also ride off-road motorcycles. I've been saving to go to your class in Waco, Texas, as I live in California. I was previously a meth user. I got clean for about 10 years. Slowly started drinking beer and smoking weed again. Never had an issue with those two items. I met a guy, and I ended up doing some coke. Over the next few weeks, it was on again. All the demons from before came back after not sleeping for a few days. I can't tell you enough the realism of the voices and how they want you to harm yourself. I ended up with a new razor blade and cut through my arm about 14 inches, elbow to wrist. I hopped on my KTM motorcycle and was just going to ride until I passed out. The neighbor saw me struggling, bleeding, convinced me to sit down for a second and think. I ended up putting the tourniquet myself from my bleeding control kit and using the gauze and wrapping my arm. A friend drove me to the ER 6 hours later, and 14 inches worth of stitches. I'm still here. If I hadn't had the bleeding control kit with the tourniquet, I may not have been. Out of 3 of my neighbors, no one knew what to do. One guy tried to use his belt as a tourniquet, and it didn't work at all. I practiced the tourniquet on myself. Bear sets and reps. I listened to Bear talk about his addiction and crying in a rainstorm in a truck over the cocaine. I'm not sure what I'm missing, but I haven't been that lucky to hear a calling. Anyway, I thought this might be useful. You may want to use this story on the channel or just remind addicts not to be effing stupid and to ask for help because the life you save may be your own. I'm also a veteran, although this has no bearing on my story outside of don't be arrogant and use the VA for help, whatever you're going through. CH. So, pray for CH. Praise Yah, CH is still here. I have no idea what the Father is going to do with CH, but I know there'll be an awesome witness and testimony there. And because me showing you how to use a tourniquet on camera, CH, is the reason you're still here, the next thing we're going to do this morning is I'm going to show you how to use a cat tourniquet. All of y'all, again, because it matters. And then we'll get into the brief. This is a Gen 7 cat tourniquet. This is what it looks like new in the packaging. We're going to pull this out. We're going to open it up after we pull the brief back up on our telephone. Telephonic communication device. We're going to open it up, take it out of the packaging. Pull this little piece of paper out. This is how you know it's brand new when we send you one. And this is a real cat tourniquet. Real Gen 7 cat tourniquet. You can tell that because it's printed on the back here. It's printed on the buckle, cat, right there. Can you see that? Okay, and elsewhere. We're going to open this up like so. And take this red tab, fold it over about 1.5 inches, because now I don't need fine motor skills to get a hold of this. Okay, take this time tab, do the same thing, but put it at a 45-degree angle or so. That's about a 30-degree angle, forgive me, so that I don't need fine motor skills to get at this. What we're not going to do is ever stow this with the time tab across the front, because that's going to impinge on my ability to get my hands on the windlass. It adds one more unnecessary step. So we're going to put that at a 45 like that, so we can grab this tab without requiring fine motor skills, without having to use our fingertips to dig through there. Okay. Now, to stage this for self-use, we're going to fold up at the buckle, down at the C-clamp on top, like so. Now this is ready to go for self-use. The reason for that is I can grab this, shake it out, and I got a loop. The loop ready to deploy over an arm or a leg, because tourniquets go on the extremities for bleeding control in the extremities, your arms and legs. We don't put them over joints. We don't put them around our necks. They're not headbands, arms and legs. Now, to apply this arm or leg, we're going to go high and tight. Yes, there's other algorithms you can use that are also just as effective as high and tight. But we teach high and tight because it's simple and easy to remember. Right here on your arm, there's a divot right here in between the shoulder joint and what is this? Come on, anatomy, wake up. The baby's done some screamo stuff last night. Delt. Trap. Delt. We're going to take this. We're going to go up over the arm, and then we're going to pull towards our center line. We teach the rule of thumb, meaning if you have your thumb on the C-clip You'll always have the tail of the tourniquet oriented towards the center line of your body. The reason for that is you can pull with more pressure than you can push away from you. So we're going to pull. When I do this, I want to keep the windlass in my workspace where I can get at it. I don't want it under my arm. I don't want it on the back of my arm. I'm going to keep it right here where I can get at it. And I'm going to pull and ratchet down, pulling on this, and pull it around the back. The tighter you get that first pull, the fewer turns of the windlass. And that first pull begins to constrict the artery against the bone structure, because that's how this works. It just pinches the artery against the internal bone structure. It's like clamping off a hose. Then we're going to take this windlass and we're going to turn this windlass. How many times? In a real injury until the bleeding stops. Okay, we're going to visually look and make sure the bleeding has stopped. But what I like to tell people is it's one turn past bad words. And I got this on pretty tight. So right there, you know what? Just for the sake of being on camera, I'll go an extra turn. Yeah, I got that on tight. There we go. There it is. You're going to want to make that face. Okay. Then we're going to take our tail. We're going to go through the C-clip and then take our time tab and go across like that. The reason we want to go through, and you can wrap this under if you want, is we want to police this tail, because if we put a tourniquet on you, guaranteed we're going to move you. If we put a tourniquet on you, congratulations, you've won the surgery lottery. You're going to see a surgeon, okay? So if I'm going to move you, guaranteed I'm not going to put a tourniquet on you, or you're going to put a tourniquet on yourself and just stay here, right? You're going to move. We don't want this tail getting caught on something and getting pulled loose, because if it gets pulled loose, we lose our compression on the bleeding vessel, aka we start bleeding again, aka we start dying again. All right, that is how, in a nutshell, we apply a CAT Gen 7 tourniquet. If you want more detail on that, at this channel for free, trauma medicine playlist. I go through the entire, bare fact, all this stuff, how to use it, all of this, how to use all this stuff, massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, everything else. You can use it as a curriculum for your mutual assistance group, your church security team, your Boy Scout troop, if those even exist anymore, your neighborhood watch, your small business, whatever you might have, whatever group of people you're doing life with, you can watch that for free at this channel and learn tourniquet application, wound packing, chest seals, maintaining a patent airway, etc., 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 etc. Hypothermia, the lethal triad, acidosis, etc., etc. It's free here on this YouTube channel. But that's how you apply a tourniquet. If you never watch anything else, that's how you apply a tourniquet. Okay? Are there other algorithms? 100%. You could go 4 inches above the wound. Okay. But this works for everything downstream from here. And the back of my hand is getting red and vascular, which means I've got constriction of the bleeding vessel. Rule of law: we put tourniquets on, we don't. We put them on, and then we elevate to a higher level of care. Call 911, we take somebody to the hospital, whatever it might be. Outside of the scope of this. But we're going to go ahead and take this off and restage it. Okay? So take your time tab. See, now I got to get my finger underneath here, which is not something we want to do if somebody's actually bleeding. Put it back at an angle, take the tail, and then this, the moment of relief. Watch the veins in the back of my hand when I pull this. See, I'm going to lose constriction right there. See that? Boom. Blood flow again. Take the windlass out. We're going to turn this so that this inner band is no longer all jammed up. Undo the end. Pull this out of the buckle and stretch. We want to re-stretch that inner band back to where it started, like so. thread this through the buckle, fold over our 1.5 inches on the end, this red tab, pull about 6, 7, 8 inches out. Gentlemen, it's longer than you think it is. Fold it over, then fold up at the buckle, down at the C-clip, and put the windlass back inside the C-clip. Now this tourniquet is staged, ready to go again. If you want to practice these, and I recommend that you do, you can get a blue tourniquet, refugemedical.com. It's a trainer tourniquet. It works exactly like the black and the orange ones do. It's made to the exact same specifications as the black and the orange ones. It's just blue for training. So you can put all the stress of training on the blue one. Will a blue one work? 100%. 2 of our lives that have been saved with trainer tourniquets that people had on them from coming to class. They still had their trainer TQ, and they used their trainer TQ to save somebody's life. That's tourniquets in a nutshell. And I realize it's probably not what you tuned in here for this morning, but it matters. There are still people alive because we have done this on camera before, including. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put in my OpFac, and then we will get into the brief. Sound good? Sounds good, babe. All right, cool. Boom. Ready to go. Ready to deploy. All right. Now, it is June the 12th, 2024. On Monday, the United Nations support of a proposed Hamas-Israel ceasefire resolution from the U.S. Quote, today we voted for peace, end quote. Who's probably a reptile? Probably a reptile, at least a shapeshifter. Who also said that if Hamas agreed to it, quote, the fighting could stop today, end quote. Big if, because Hamas fundamentally, at their most basic level, their ethos is, their founding core belief is death to Israel. So a ceasefire with Israel may not be something they're interested in. The proposal included a complete ceasefire and the exchange of Palestinian prisoners for the remains of deceased hostages and the release of living hostages. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, or Abe Lincoln, yeah, because they're just trolling us, said in a Tel Aviv press briefing on Tuesday that the strong support from the United Nations Security Council was quite rare. Even China, which expressed some doubt over the details in the text, voted in favor of the proposal in the end. In fact, only Russia abstained. Why did Russia abstain? Because it's in Russia's best interest that the United States is mired in another war in the Middle East. And Russia does a fair stroke of business with Iran. And Iran funds the Hezbollahs and the Houthis and the Hamases. And therefore, it has been my supposition since, what was it, October 7th, 2023, that Russia is in large part behind this most recent action in Israel because it forces the United States to fight a two-front war. And remember all the funding for Ukraine that got held up in Congress because it was tied to funding for Israel at the same time. So, of course, Russia would like war to continue in Israel because war in Israel, at a minimum, ties up U.S. funding for the United States. Like our $300 million pier that was used for one day, and then they took it out of service, and they were going to repair it to the tune of $20 to $30 million, and now it's just broken beyond repair. We can't use it. So we got 1 day of service out of a $300 million investment. Go Biden. He's clearly going to win the 2024 election. The way this guy stewards resources, incredible. But I digress. Russia abstained. Blinken pointed out, quote, everyone has said yes except for Hamas. Coincidental. And if Hamas doesn't say yes, then this is clearly on them, end quote. His other words expanded on the point, quote, it is on Hamas to move forward with this proposal or not. And it's very clear what virtually the entire international community wants to see, and of course, what so many families want to see, and it's also what the people of Gaza so desperately need. We have the prospect of an immediate ceasefire, building toward an enduring one and tremendous relief for the people in Gaza, but also opening prospects for Israel to build enduring security, which is what this country needs and has wanted from day one of its existence. End quote. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has, quote, reaffirmed his commitment, end quote, to a ceasefire plan for Gaza, and even Hamas has previously indicated support for portions of the proposal. And one statement issued said it was welcoming the resolution. In fact, Reuters, because they're a believable witness, one of the 6 big ones around the world that controls 98% of the air quote news that is disseminated around the globe. In fact, Reuters reported that Hamas has accepted and is ready to negotiate the details of the proposal. So Reuters reported that Hamas accepted. All right. One senior Hamas leader, Osama Hamdan, because that sounds like a trustworthy fella, said, quote, the resolution contains points we do not accept, but its main aspects are positive. The Security Council resolution will not take effect on the ground unless the occupation agrees to it, end quote. He also said the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was, quote, one of the obstacles to reaching an agreement because he acts solely according to Israel's wishes, end quote. Sami Abu Azuri, another senior Hamas official, reportedly told Reuters that Israel would have to be held to account by the U.S. for this to be successful. So the question is peace on the way? One statement attributed to an Israeli government official said, quote, Israel will not end the war before achieving all of its war objectives, destroying Hamas's military and governing capabilities, freeing all the hostages, and ensuring Gaza doesn't pose a threat to Israel in the future. The proposal presented enables Israel to achieve those goals, and Israel will indeed do so, end quote. Official channels have attempted to ensure that Israel has committed to accepting this proposal, but the message appears to be mixed. In any case, the Security Council cannot force the proposal's adoption, but this vote certainly increases the international pressure on both Israel and Hamas. That is the written brief. So, what will come of this? If I had to guess, 0. Dog shit. And will it be a lasting peace? We've talked about this before. Probably not, because Ishmael and Isaac do not get along. They've never gotten along. Read the book. No anatomical or from the Jews, and that the Palestinians are descended from the Philistines. Bro, do a little bit more homework. You know what the Jewish for Philistine is? It's Philistine. The H is like a, imagine that sound. Philistine. Remember the Philistines? He had some fallen angel DNA in him. He was a big dude. And then this little ruddy fella named David, the 7th son of Jesse, Yishai, showed up. And King Saul was there. Shaul, the first king of Israel. Israel's not supposed to have kings. And it's like, hey, man, these guys are going to slaughter us. And David was like, probably not on my watch, bro. Watch this. Yeah, those guys, that whole story, yeah, that's the Yehudim, the Jews, and the Philistines. Where does the word Palestine come from? It's the same word. It's the same word, y'all. They haven't gotten along. They're not going to get along until probably either the world elites manufacture some type of peace to, like we were talking about yesterday, to fake a Matthew 24 situation, just like they're already trying to manufacture famine and plague and disease and war. They'll manufacture a peace. Oh, are we buffering? Okay. It's buffering up with Washington too. Great. Well, this is what happens when you talk about Palestine. Love it. Or the Antichrist will bring in a peace. And there's an argument to be made that when the system brokers a peace, that's brokered at the hands of the Antichrist. Now, that would require you to believe the air quote fairy tales in the Bible, of which I'm happy to tell you I do. I find them to be much more reliable than the fairy tales I find on the internet. So we back, says Carl. Awesome. But Bear, Abraham was a black man. Our father was a wandering Aramaean. Maybe he was a black man. I'll tell you this, he probably didn't look like me. And I don't think Jesus was white with blonde hair and blue eyes either, because I've never seen anybody from the Middle East who was born white with blonde hair and blue eyes. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. But that's a different rabbit hole that we're probably not going to jump into right now. So, of course, the world news is all talking about this Israel-Hamas ceasefire, and there's conflicting reporting about who did or didn't agree to it, whether it be Israel or Hamas and all that. And this has been a long trend in the air quote relationship between Israel and Palestine, which I realize is not the same as Hamas. But they have been proposing and then accepting or not accepting peace talks for decades. And one side will say, we agreed, but they didn't. And then the other side will say, no, we agreed, but they didn't. And they'll go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so I do not have high hopes for this peace agreement, regardless of whether or not the United Nations Security Council thinks that we should. Moving on, because I don't know about y'all, I'm a little wore out with Israel-Hamas news, because they're just going to keep doing what they do. And have there been civilian casualties in Gaza at the hands of the Israelis? 100%. They've admitted that. Are they egregious? Probably. Can the numbers that come out of the Palestinian Health Authority be believed? No, they're a known terrorist organization, not a tourist organization. I don't recommend Gaza tourism unless you just have a very particular set of skills and or are bent in the head. But Hamas all the way did murder, what, 1,000 to 1,200 people on October 7th. So this most recent thing, they started it, but you go far enough back, you can find evidence of either party starting the thing back. It's the Hatfields and the McCoys, bro. And people say, well, it goes back to 1947. No, dude, it goes back 3,500 years to Ishmael and Isaac. They don't get along. They've never gotten along. They're not going to get along. Not anytime soon. And when they start getting along, I'm going to get really, really nervous, because that means that the Antichrist is walking the face of the earth biblically. So now, how about that laptop? You guys see this? We're talking about this on SOE live yesterday afternoon. Hunter Biden has been found guilty on 3 charges. All of the firearms charges that he was facing, he's been found guilty on. That he falsified federal records in order to obtain a firearm by lying and saying that he did not have a drug issue, when his defense was very clearly that he had a drug issue and therefore he shouldn't be held accountable. What's up, Dana? Love the shirt, Bear. This one comes from Viking Preparedness. Come out of her, my people. Coup hemp. Revelation 18, verse 4. Come out of her, my people, lest you partake of her sins and receive of her plagues. What's the lesson in that? You can be a good person in the wrong place and still get your ass kicked. That's the lesson in that. Not that I'm a pastor or anything, but I did get some oil rubbed on my forehead last October. So I guess that qualifies me. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I'll be completely honest with you guys and girls. When it comes to, I was talking with some friends about this the other day. When it comes to preparedness, I've got my 10,000 hours in. I've been personally doing this stuff since Hurricane Katrina, which I believe was 2005. 19 or 20 years of doing prepper stuff, doing pastor stuff. I don't have my 10,000 hours in yet. And answering pastor questions are a lot more complicated, because they require a lot more context and nuance than how much water should I store? How many calories do I need? What's the best striker-fired 9mm polymer framed pistol that I should buy? And so it's challenging in a good way for me to do pastor stuff, because I don't have a whole bunch of reps and sets at it yet. And so I'm trying to walk softly in that department right now, because I'm very, very aware that my words have serious implications for people. and I don't want to be issuing bad advice to anybody, and that comes from the book of James. Not many of you should be teachers, rabbis, pastors, for you shall be held to a higher level of accountability. And that's something we should all remember, right? Like, not everybody's qualified to be a shepherd, ra'ah, pastor. And frankly, I think the only thing that qualifies me to the extent that I am qualified is the Most High using me to pour into other people's lives. And some days I'm pretty good at it, and other days I'm not. And so, you know, especially with the Patreon questions, a lot of the questions here lately have turned into Pastor Bear questions, and they lack context when they're asked. It's like, Pastor Bear, should I leave my wife? What? Probably not. Probably not. But maybe, I don't know. You got any more details? Like, did she try and stab you? Is there adultery? Like, otherwise, work it out, you know? So, but I digress. Hunter Biden's laptop. Hunter has been convicted on all of these gun charges based upon evidence on the laptop. The laptop that the IC, the intelligence community, said for 5 years didn't exist. Oh, by the way, remember when there was a letter put out during the last presidential election signed by over 100 members of the air quote intelligence community stating unequivocally that the laptop was Russian propaganda and didn't exist? Where are those 100 intelligence community officials? Where are they? Are they going to be on trial at any point? They probably should be. Now we get a channel strike and the stream goes dead. Yeah, remember that? Laptop doesn't exist. And the whole, even though the Parmesan Prince, man, we got videos of Hunter Biden smoking Parmesan, right? Because that was the argument. Smoking Parmesan out of a crack pipe. Not a Parmesan pipe. He didn't have the little cheese grater thing, you know, with a Bic lighter up next to it. No. Dude was smoking crack with horse on video, talking about some of the egregious things that he has done. And not once or twice, hundreds of those videos, not to mention emails and communications applications with hundreds of pieces of commo back and forth between him and Chinese investors and Burisma investors in Ukraine, and, you know, 10% for the big guy and all of that. But no, that's all Russian propaganda. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. And if you say that it does, we will police your First Amendment rights and you may face jail time. Except for the fact that it does exist. And the fact that it existed is the reason that Hunter got convicted. November is going to get interesting. Now, there's 1,000 different articles out there today on Hunter Biden being convicted. His first-time offender, so the likelihood that he gets jail time is essentially zero. But sentencing is supposed to take place within 120 days, which puts us roughly mid-October when that happens. Which you may not know this, but according to the calendar, Greco-Roman Babylonian calendar, that's just before election time. Will he get sentenced? Probably not. But what is fun is that we now have a former president running for president of the United States who's a convicted felon. We have the current president who should be a convicted felon, who has a son who is now a convicted felon as well. Tell me you're in an end-stage empire without telling me you're in an end-stage empire. That's a good time. So I don't care about the conviction. I think the conviction's a nothing burger. I think it's an interesting data point. I care much more about the laptop that everybody said didn't exist for 5 years. And turns out it does exist, and it was used as evidence in this trial where Hunter Biden caught 3 felonies. Which makes me think about all the people who said it doesn't exist, and you're wrong if you say that it does. And we will hurt you if you say that it does exist. Where are those people? Drain the swamp, Bear. Yeah, I know. Drain the swamp. Let me give you guys a little bit of an analogy. One time, I was in South Texas, and I was doing a wind turbine job, and we were on the Gulf of Mexico. like you could throw a baseball and hit the Gulf of Mexico. And on this job site, there was a lot of subsurface gas and oil pipeline running all over the place. And our specification required that we run power lines below the natural gas and oil, which makes sense. That way, if you have a problem with the gas line, the pipeline, you don't have to dig through live power to get at the pipeline, tracking. And that's all well and good, unless the pipeline is 17 feet below the surface of the sugar sand that you're working on. And the sugar sand that you're working on is less than 100 yards from the Gulf of Mexico. And so our trenching crew digs a big old hole, exposes this pipeline, back drags the power line, and we stub it through underneath power lines, underneath the pipeline. Direct bury collection system. The turbines get ganged up on a circuit, like the switches and lights in your house, usually 10 to 14 turbines per circuit. Then that circuit runs in the triplex or 3 cables back on what's called a home run, a collection system, back to the substation on property where all that power is collected and aggregated and then goes out on transmission lines. So, and these cables are, let's see, that was 1500 kc mil. So about as big around as this Nalgene bottle. 480 volts, a few thousand amps. But I digress. Anyway, we pull the cables back. We get it stubbed underneath this gas pipeline that's 17 feet down in sand next to the Gulf of Mexico. What do you think starts happening to this gigantic hole? Because sand has a low angle of repose, meaning you have to dig it shallow or it will cave in on itself. So we have this hole about the size of a football field to get that deep next to the Gulf of Mexico. It starts filling with water. And my guys are calling me, what do we do, boss? I go out there and they had 4 8-inch, not 2-inch or 3-inch or 4-inch, not 6-inch, 4 8-inch diesel powered water pumps trying to suck water out of this hole and pump it away from the hole to dewater the hole, which ain't working. So I get out there and I'm looking, and even with these 4 pumps running, one on each corner of the hole, blowing water out of this hole, it's still filling up faster than it's emptying. They're like, why is that, boss? Because guys, we're in sand, and it doesn't matter how fast you pump it. You're never going to pump it faster than the Gulf of Mexico can fill it up again. Okay? The Gulf of Mexico's right there. I can see it. It's right there. So I don't know if we had 100 pumps on this hole, maybe. We got 4, and they're big ones, and it ain't working. So the hole fills up with water. Our specification is we have to go back over the top of these power cables with a type of concrete called FTB, fluidized thermal backfill. It has a high quartz content, and that quartz increases the ampacity of the cable. Ampacity is the current carrying ability of the cable. Ditch the nerd speak. The cooler the cable is, the more power we can shoot down it. And this type of concrete helps keep it cool. Well, the hole's filled with water. So I get out there. I say, here's what we got a couple options here. One is we can tremie tube. We could take a tube from a concrete pump, put it down to the bottom of the water, and then start pumping concrete in there. The concrete will lift the column of water, displace the water. We're good to go. The other is, it takes 4 things to make concrete: sand, stone, cement, water. We have water. We'll put sandstone cement pre-mixed into the hole, and FTB sets up like that fast. Gets hard, like hard enough to drive on in about 15 minutes. And so I get into an argument with a young nerd, brand new engineering student, first job, brand new safety vest, brand new hard hat, doesn't have a scuff, there's 2 stickers on it. You see a hard hat with 2 stickers on it? That fella's new. One sticker was his name across his forehead. The other one was for the site-specific safety class that he had to go through. That's it. There's no Barnhart crane, Biggie crane, Tesmec trencher stickers, none of that. West Per rope, none of that stuff. brand new shiny hard hat, 2 stickers, clipboard, brand new safety vest. I'm like, and guys, I'm the project manager. So I outrank this kid, but you try not to mess with engineering. And so this kid is having a conniption because you can't put ASTM C133-7 says, hey kid, I'm gonna need you to do me a favor and just shut the hell up for a minute. We got a hole that's being filled by the Gulf of Mexico, and we got to make concrete. So I'm gonna have the batch plants batch dry mix sandstone cement into dump trucks. We're gonna bring dump trucks out here, and love that EIT, engineering training. Exactly. I'm gonna mix a dry mix sandstone cement. We'll put it in dump trucks. We'll back these dump trucks up to the edge of the hole. We'll dump them off. We'll take D8 dozers, push them into the hole. That stuff. Oh, and the other thing about FTB, fluidized thermal backfill, is it's self-leveling, like flow fill. Don't have to vibratory compact it. Don't have to screed it. Don't have to place it. You just put it in a hole, and it self-levels. It finds its own level, just like water does. Imagine that. And he's like, you can't do that. That's not allowable. And I said, look, kid, look at me. We need 4 things in the hole: sandstone, cement, water. We have water. I'm going to add sandstone cement, and we're going to make concrete in this hole. And we get into an argument. I said, look, and it was the end of the day. I said, I'm going to fill this hole in. I will meet you here 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Got it? Got it. There's a point to the story. Hang with me. So we start batching dump trucks. Dump trucks start showing up. We start pushing it in with dozers, and we're working around the edge of the hole. And by the time, you start, say, at 12 o'clock, and by the time you work your way back to 12 o'clock again, the stuff that you pushed in at 12 o'clock is already hard because it's FTB. Great mix design on this stuff. We keep working in concentric circles onto a smaller and smaller hole till the whole hole is filled. We're out. 7 a.m. the next morning, I'm standing in the center of this football field size, what used to be a hole that's now backfilled with FTB. Hard as a rock, smooth as a pane of glass. You could have landed a 747 on it. And the engineer kid was amazed. I didn't know you could do that. You can do all kinds of things. If we set the binder and the clipboard down and just look at the problem, what's the problem? We have too much water. We need water to solve the problem. We could look at it as we already have water. That's one of the 4 things we need to solve this problem. Check, don't got to worry about it. Sandstone, cement. I said, that's how you make concrete, kid. Sandstone, cement, water. We already had water. I introduced the other 3. Boom, concrete. We're good to go. Never had a problem. What's my point to all this story? It worked. That's number 1. So improvise, adapt, overcome. I guess number 2, no myopic paradigms. There's too much water. Or praise Yah, we've already got water. I just got to bring the other 3 things in now. We'll be good to go. Easier than getting a pump truck and Tremie tube and drum mixers and the whole 9. Because on tandem axle dump truck, I'm going to get 16 yards in here. On an end dump where I'm off the road, I'll get 30 yards in an end dump. 45,000-ish pounds on a dump trailer. Cool, I'll take it. Goes quick versus 10.5 yards on a drum mixer, pre-mixed. But the real point to this, drain the swamp. How big are your water pumps? Going back to Hunter Biden and Donald Trump and felons in DC. Trump's going to drain the swamp. That intelligence community that said that the laptop didn't exist, but it does exist. And the deep state. You put the best water pumps you got into the hole and start pumping, and the hole doesn't drain any. Maybe it's because the hole is being fed from the Gulf of Mexico. Okay? So sometimes the problem is greater than your capacity to deal with it. All right? It's like you and your AR-15, one of y'all. going to, say, the southern border, and you're going to defend the border, one of y'all. Well, yeah, but we need a lot more of you, tens of thousands of you, in order to actually affect change, given the situation. So maybe Trump did try and drain the swamp. Maybe he's going to try and drain the swamp again. But if the hole is being fed by the Gulf of Mexico, don't be surprised when you can't pump it out with 4 8-inch water pumps. That's the moral of my story. Speaking of, last thing I wanted to look at this morning. From the Blaze Media. That's a good photo. I should have used that photo as my thumbnail. Oh well. What's the photo? A white INS immigration van with some dudes in coyote tan plate carriers. His tourniquet's all messed up. U.S. Border Patrol with dozens of illegals standing around the van. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 Border Patrol agents. That'll solve it. And listen, the boots on the ground, Border Patrol, the vast majority of those people that I've worked with, that I've run into, good guys, good girls. Their heart's in the right place. They're just trying to do their damn job. Their leadership, not so much. From the Blaze, 8 immigrants with possible ties to ISIS caught in sting operation after crossing the southern border. Reported by Carlos Garcia, 11/June/24. That would have been yesterday. The sting operation found evidence through a wiretap of the foreign nationals. Several immigrants with possible ties to the ISIS terror group were caught in a sting operation after they crossed into the U.S. via the southern border. The New York Post reported that its sources told them 6 possible terrorists had been caught in a sting operation in Los Angeles, New York, and Philadelphia, the city of freedom. Nothing to see here. I live in Pennsylvania. There's no terrorists here. Where in Pennsylvania? I live in Minnesota. There's no terrorists in Minnesota. Where in Minnesota do you live? Are there terrorists in Oklahoma? Yeah, we've seen some of them. Were they headed towards Oklahoma City and Tulsa? Yeah. Why? Cost-benefit analysis. Bang for your buck. If you're going to do hood rat shit, you want the most possible casualties that you can get. There's 1 million people in Tulsa. There's 1.5 million people in Oklahoma City. There's less than 1.5 million people left in the entire remainder of the state. So the entire state or Oklahoma City, same population. Probably OKC. So just because you live in the middle of nowhere or in flyover country doesn't mean that this threat doesn't exist for you. It's a population density equation issue. Yet again, one more thing to consider. Do you even strategic relocation, bro? Do you even come out of her, my people, bro? Are you headed over to the other house shortly? You're doing things as if you are.
Yeah. Stuff's going to.
Oh my goodness. Cool. Like nowish.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. She's at the front door. What do we do? Do we hide? Oh, no, we don't hide. You guys ever get like, at the end of the day, I'll come home and like FedEx or UPS will show up and they'll like ring the doorbell or knock on the door. And I literally think to myself, if I have to see one more human being today, I'm going to end up on the international news. And so that you just like slink down in the couch like this. You do one of these, right? You're like, if they can't see us, they don't know that we're here. And then knock on the door one more time. Just leave your package on the doorstep. Yeah, me neither. I've never done that. Anyway, so back to ISIS. 2 others were arrested after being surveilled for several months by a joint terrorism task force, JTTF. The immigrants had initially been fully vetted and cleared to remain in the country. Nice. After they gained entry, officials grew suspicious of the group after hearing derogatory comments on a wiretap, which means they were persons of interest. They probably were able to obtain a warrant, and then an air quote wiretap was obtained. Let me ask you something. Do you think this wiretap was on some copper lines to a landline phone that they were using? No, it wasn't. Then what did they tap? I'm going to say it again. One more time for everybody who hasn't heard me thus far. This is a 7th generation intelligence surveillance collection device. You are carrying around an ISR device in your pocket. It tracks your every movement. It knows every network you've ever connected to, every Bluetooth device you've ever connected to. It knows all the other devices around you. It knows your place on planet Earth in 4-dimensional space-time, and it can be tied directly to you rolling MAC addresses or not. If you're gonna go do hood rat shit, leave your phones at home. If you do hood rat shit at your home, don't have a damn phone. Okay? Okay. Yeah. Because it wasn't an old rotary phone with copper wires in it, 26 gauge pair of wires, color coded, that they tapped. The wire tap. They didn't actually tap a wire. No, they got a warrant to do digital surveillance on that collection device. By the way, does anybody remember there's a certain member of the administration, unelected, appointed bureaucratic official. What's his name? He's with the oh, that's right, the FBI, but he's low level. All right, what's his title? Director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, has defined you as a domestic terror threat, has defined me as a domestic terror threat. Why? FISA. Why do we have to re-up FISA? Because now that you've already been declared a domestic terror threat per FISA, everything I need to know about who you are, where you are, who you're talking to, what you're saying, etc., etc. Yeah. So you're going to do hood rat shit, you keep the phones at home. The foreign nationals are said to be from Tajikistan, a former Soviet republic in Central Asia. One of the suspects allegedly made comments regarding a bomb, B-O-M-B, according to the Post. Quote, remember the Boston Marathon bombing? I'm afraid something like that might happen again, or worse, said a source to the Post. Now, here's the thing, right? When you put a case like this together, and I'll tell you, per what I know about working with the FBI, the benchmark is set pretty high in order to actually build a case, to have something actionable that they can prosecute. Excuse me, that they can prosecute with arrest warrants. They might be able to get a warrant to tap your phone, but to prosecute with arrest warrants, that bar is pretty high, which is good, right? Because you have God-given inalienable rights that are protected by the Constitution that say what the government can't do to you, not what you can't do. But I digress. But it makes me wonder, how many times have you made flippant comments? Maybe you had a couple of beers, you're hanging out with your buddies. It's like, it'd be a real shame if something like that was to happen. Ha, ha, ha. Yup. And they're just sitting there, just hoovering that shit up. You have Faraday bags? You should get some Faraday bags. Blackout bags? Yeah. I keep some in my truck for all the reasons. I keep them in a steel toolbox in my truck. 2 of them, triple layered. Confirm no signals going in or out. Because maybe I got to do some hood rat shit on the fly. Devices in the bags, bag in the bag, bag inside the toolbox. Done. Not transmitting. Well, I turned my phone off. That thing still transmits when you turn it off. It can still be tapped into when it's turned off. So how many times have you just been hanging out with your buddies, having a couple of beers or sitting around a fire or something, and say, oh, and it knows when your phone is next to your buddy's phones, and it's doing POL, pattern of life, on you and them and everybody else all the time, algorithmically. There's open source software that you can plug this data into that will graph all that shit for you. But you've been sitting around a fire talking to your buddies. It'd be a shame if something like that was to happen again. Actionable. Actionable. That is the state of the world that we live in these days, boys and girls. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security released a joint statement about the report. Quote, over the last few days, ICE agents arrested several non-citizens pursuant to immigration authorities. The actions were carried out in close coordination with the FBI's JTTF. The individuals arrested are detained in ICE custody pending removal proceedings, the statement read. As the FBI and DHS have recently described in public and partner bulletins, the U.S. has been in a heightened threat environment. It added, quote, the FBI and DHS will continue working around the clock with our partners to identify, investigate, and disrupt potential threats to national security. With our partners. Some of those partners have badges. Some of those partners don't have badges. Some of those partners are CIs, criminal informants, that instead of them catching charges, they're going to rat on other people. Some of those partners are just informants. There's absolutely a gray area between what civilians aren't allowed to do and what law enforcement is allowed to do. What does our friend over at Suspicious Observer say? Fight in the shade. If you have ears to hear, if you're picking up on any of this, 100%. The words matter. We'll continue working around the clock with our partners. Now, when you hear partners, normies hear partners, they think to their left and their right, other law enforcement agencies, other government entities. It doesn't mean just that. Okay? It doesn't mean just that. At least 2 of the men are believed to have crossed the border during the spring of 2023. CBS News reported that sources told them there was no evidence of an active terror attack being plotted by the group. Okay, that's disinformation. That's bullshit. If there was no evidence of an active terror attack being plotted by the group, they wouldn't have been rolled up in the first place. Now, they're saying that they're getting them on immigration policy, but how many other people have been rolled up because of immigration policy? In fact, it's the opposite. The reason this story is interesting, 8 people with ties to ISIS being jammed up under immigration, is we know a lot more than 8 of these people have come across the border. This has been a concern for many of us for a long time. Well, confirmed, okay? It's there. We got the articles, we got the reporting, and it's been carried by 100 different outlets this morning. It'll be on multiple different conservative news outlets today. So we could go ahead and call that one confirmed. The broad brushstrokes, the details of which are intentionally murky. If there was no active terrorist threat from these 8 individuals, they wouldn't have been rolled up in the first place by the FBI with the FBI's assistance. If it was an ICE issue, ICE would have got them. Well, you could make the argument that it's FBI because it's interstate. They came across the southern border and they were rolled up in LA, New York, and Philadelphia. It's interstate, and anytime there's an interstate crime, the FBI gets involved. No. Anytime there's an interstate crime, at the FBI's discretion, they can choose to become involved. Oh, and we've also got Department of Homeland Security involved because they care about 8 random people in 3 random cities. So that's misinformation. That is make the normies feel good about themselves. Nothing to worry about here, nothing to see here. The report is especially alarming after Tajikistani terrorists attacked a civilian in a horrific attack at the Crocus City Concert Hall in a suburb near Moscow in March. 145 people were killed and hundreds were injured. ISIS-K later took credit for the massacre. FBI Director Christopher Wray has previously testified to Congress about the threat of a possible terror attack in the U.S. from militants crossing the border, among other migrants. Quote, our most immediate concern has been that individuals or small groups will draw twisted inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks here at home. They're not drawing twisted inspiration from the attacks in the Middle East. They're being sent by the same people who orchestrated the attacks in the Middle East. They're already inspired. If they weren't inspired, they wouldn't be here. But again, let's just make the normies feel normal. Everything's fine, nothing to see here. Don't worry, the government's working on it. You'll be okay. But invest in the stock market. Run on the hamster wheel, pay your taxes, everything's fine. They're trying to maintain an air of everything's fine. Don't worry, guys, we're working on it. Came up on the SOE live stream yesterday. Do you think DHS is a 250,000 man private army? Go see my comments on that live stream. But let's just take that number, 250,000. That's less than 400,000. Here's another question that John posited. who's arming and training those 400,000 to probably 1 million or 2 people? And are they sleeper cells? Yeah, I think. How big is a sleeper cell? If it's 4 dudes, okay, they can cause some chaos and maybe slip away. There's advantages to having a small group of people. They can get in, they can get out. It's a lot harder to notice the actions of 4 individuals. But if they're larger groups, 200, 400,000 guys in each city, start wreaking havoc. So you got 1,000 guys with ARs and body armor that just show up in the Bronx or San Diego. Now, San Diego, maybe there's a large, special warfare community there. LA. They show up in LA and just start shooting 1,000 of them. What's LAPD or NYPD going to do with 1,000 of those guys? And is it just small arms? Or is the small arms the diversion so that you miss the improvised explosive devices or the planes flying into buildings or not flying into buildings because holograms or whatever, V-beds or whatever, as ships smash into bridges and GPS is also simultaneously hacked. That's not supposed to be able to happen. Okay. And infrastructure's taken offline and power's cut due to substations, which means now we have no commo, no logistics, no power. Then there's no follow-on effects from all of that. Let's start with no Casevac, medevac as the level 5+ mass casualty incident is taking place. Barry, you taking the studio background wall to the new residence? Starfish, great question. We're not in my studio. We're at my dining room table. Here, I'll prove it to you. Look, a table. No, but in the new house, which is really far away. I mean, it's almost 26 feet away. Like moving day is going to be rough. But in the new house, we have a room that is a bedroom for Squish that would, the whole premise is predicated on bed. Well, she doesn't have a bed because she's little. So until she needs a bed, Dad has an office. And in the office, there will be one wall that will be designed as a studio. I'm probably going to do kind of like a Zach Galifianakis between two ferns kind of look over there. A couple of club chairs, a plant, maybe some wood on the wall. I don't know. And the goal has been at this channel, although I will admit I'm not doing a great job at it at all. The goal is to have more conversations and less bear talks at an iPhone. I think conversations are A, more genuine, and B, more interesting. So that's the goal. Anyway, we will see what comes from that. I like table. I love lamp. This table was actually that kind of like golden oak, 80s, 90s kind of wood look thing. And what's on the table now is distressed barnwood wallpaper that my artsy craftsy wife lined the table with, and then she painted the edge of the table and the legs some kind of barn farmhouse colored thing and made a really nice table out of it. So, and me, I don't care. Is the table 2 sawhorses with a sheet of plywood on it? I'm good, as long as we have table. You good, honey?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you looking for?
That Lowe's sack.
That Lowe's sack. I left it where it was yesterday so that we wouldn't have to look for it today.
Did you take it in the house already?
I don't know. That's why I put it on the plywood. And then you moved it. Where you moved it to, I don't know. But I like you're looking for the Lowe's sack dance. That's really good. You want to be on camera?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
That's a winner right there. I don't know where your Lowe's sack is. You didn't put it on the island in the new house?
I might have. I might have just looked over it.
Entirely possible. Akiata Skarata, what's up, man? I like Bear Talks in an iPhone. Well, we're working on all of it. Hey, Bear, when is Shavuot? That's a great question, Tuna. Nobody knows the answer, but I will be observing it this Sunday. So, anyway, immigrants, ISIS, bad things. Not only the point of that article is not only to illustrate that, yes, now we have confirmation based upon FBI, DHS, ICE, Customs Border Protection. So the mouse of 2 or 3 has 4 for you. That yes, bad actors have come across our southern border as we've suspected forever and a day, but also to illustrate some of the techniques by which these bad actors were identified and prosecuted, because it's just a matter of time before you and I could be considered the bad actors, especially, I cannot reiterate this enough, and we're in a particularly dangerous time between now and November. My hope is nothing bad happens. However, hope is not a strategy. So we're in a particularly dangerous time in between now and November, and potentially after November, because the new president / incumbent president will not be inaugurated until the following year. So keep your head on a swivel, please and thank you. That's the show for today. I told you guys Refuge Medical. We just had Life 104 directly saved with a Refuge Medical kit, plus 21 for Project Tribute, makes 125 witnesses that these kits work. If you have a kit, please train with it. If you have a kit from somebody else and it doesn't have a tourniquet in it, or it doesn't have a real tourniquet in it, please get a real tourniquet, a Cat Gen 7 or a Soft T, Special Operations Forces tourniquet, which you don't have to be. You don't have to be on a soft, as part of soft in order to get a soft tourniquet. You could just have one in your pocket like I do. Now, the difference between the Cat and the Soft T is when you put the Soft T on, the Soft T has to be ratcheted down. When I pull it, it doesn't just snap down, okay? So you ratchet it like this, and it's going to go the same place, high and tight, in the same spot on the arm. We're going to get good constriction. There we go. And we're going to turn this windlass. Carrie, still love your content as much as I did when I stumbled across it the first time, Bear. Carrie, I appreciate that. So then we're going to hook the windlass and the C-clip right here. And if we can, we want to get this triangle over this windlass. That's easier to do if you're applying this on somebody else, not yourself. The Soft T requires, there we go, requires more training than the Cat does. The Cat is more intuitive, but the Soft T is significantly more compact. They both cost the same amount of money. The Cat has 19,000 known applications in the global war on terror. The Soft T has about 12 or 13,000 applications in the global war on terror. We know both of them work. We've got tons and tons and tons of data through the Committee on Tactical Combat Casualty Care on these two products that work great. Don't get a fake tourniquet. Please don't get a tourniquet from Temu or from Amazon or from Rhino Rescue or Recon or whoever they are today or whatever. I break those things all the time on camera to illustrate that they don't work. If you bought your tourniquet for $20 on Amazon, it's not a real tourniquet. Real tourniquets cost about $30 a piece. And so you might be asking yourself, but does it really matter? Does it matter if you die or your best friend dies or your wife dies so you could save a couple of bucks? I would submit that it matters. It matters a lot. And so please get real equipment. Okay. Now I have this on great. It hurts. And that's something you should be aware of. Tourniquets hurt. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it off, assuming that I can. There we go. Spin the windlass back off and lift up right there. What's cool about the Soft T is if you have somebody in your life that has larger limbs, a bigger person, like I'll give you an example. J.A. Dudley, who's a brother and a dear friend of mine, has great big gigantic legs because he's a great big gigantic dude who used to fight professionally, and never let him kick you. If he ever kicks you, your life may well be over. But a cat, Tourniquet, isn't long enough to get around his gigantic thighs, gigantic in a good way thighs, and get constriction. The soft T is. This is longer than the cat is. You have a much bigger circle here that you can get around much larger limbs. So there's benefits, and there's pluses and minuses to either the cat, the soft T. Both of them work. Both of them are real tourniquets produced by real reputable companies with FDA approval and mountains of data, and it's worth spending $30 on a real tourniquet if you don't have a real tourniquet. Okay. So, and people will say, well, I can make a tourniquet out of my belt. See the opening of this show. Guy tried to make a tourniquet out of his belt and it didn't work. I can do lots of things if I know how to do them, and more importantly, I have trained to do them. I haven't trained to do them. It's all theory. You don't want any of this stuff to be theory. So you should possess the equipment, and more importantly, train with it so that you possess the skills to use the equipment. Okay? Okay, Bear. Awesome. Bear, need help with a first fruits offering. You bring what you have to offer. First fruits of your land. What is that? Whatever it is. You bring a portion of that. You bring an offering made by fire, and you give it back to the Father because it's his in the first place. It is acknowledgement of everything I have belongs to you. All these things you've given me belong to you. I have them for time. I'm a caretaker, a steward for time, for provision, protection, blessing. But it all belongs to the Father. And it's also an acknowledgement of I'm going to give you a little bit what I've got, knowing I'm going to burn up the little bit that I've got, knowing, not believing, knowing, because you're a good Father and a loving Father, you will give me much more than I need, that there's more coming. That's first fruits. Shavuot, an offering made by fire. So, Refuge Medical, 125 lives saved to date, HSA and FSA eligible. Guys, we have all the kits. You know this. If you're an operator, get an OpFac. Okay? If you're not, you drive a minivan, get a travel kit and put this on the headrest of your minivan or your pickup truck. I got 2 of these in my pickup truck, or your semi truck, or whatever you may have. Right? And how does this work? Red handle, pull. This stays on the headrest. This comes out. Boom. First aid kit. Ready to go. Made in America. Guaranteed forever. Organized so you can use it. Maybe you need one of the classics. SOB. Small to back kit. Great on a war belt, a chest rig, a plate carrier. Tiny. Weighs as much as one loaded AR magazine. Have some of these submitted for testing and approval to an agency that you've definitely heard of right now. We'll see how that goes. And look, made in America, guaranteed forever, not made in China. And let's see, what else do I have within my reach? I have 2 more. I'll show you 2 more just because I can. The Bearfac. This one's a multicam black. They come in red and green and coyote tan and multicam, and I don't remember what other colors, but the red looks sharp. If you're a civilian, look at the red. Red with reflective, so I can see this in the dark or after an accident or in a fire. Pop this open. Grab the red handle. Boom. Watch, one-handed. Organized, per priority of care, massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, everything else. All this stuff right back here. Burn shield dressing, chest seals, nasopharyngeal airway, gauze, shears. Down here, all of our boo-boo stuff, our trauma pack, our wound packing gauze, hemostatics, etc., etc. That's the bare fact. And then, of course, the bare minimum. I don't need one of them big kits. I need a bare minimum. Okay, there's the bare minimum. And this one, boys and girls, has boo-boo wipes and Band-Aids and steri strips and OTC meds. It's like more of like a household first aid kit. Susie fell off of her bike or somebody got shot, stabbed, blown up. This will do both, the bare minimum. My point is, we got all this stuff. And even if our e-commerce platform doesn't like us right now, and even if we don't like them right now, we're open. The website's open. Our phone number works. Our emails work. The store is open. Come to the store. Come see us. Call us. Shoot us an email. Follow us on socials. Please do all of those things. I would appreciate it. We're still here. We're not going anywhere. And I ain't worried about shit because my God is God. Okay. Now, what else? GrindstoneMinistries.com. If you need a Bible, you don't have a Bible, and you want a Bible, I'm not trying to make you take one. Oh, it's squishy. But if you want a Bible, and you're like, I just don't know where to get one, you can buy them at our cost, GrindstoneMinistries.com. And this is, the translation is the scriptures. Available from www.isr-messianic.org, or you can just follow the link in the description to Grindstone Ministries. You can buy one at our cost, or if you can't afford one, you can contact us through the website with your mailing address, and I will send you one for free. We've only given away about 7,000 copies of the scriptures since we started doing this. So thank you to everybody who supports Grindstone Ministries. We couldn't do this without you. And when we're not giving away Bibles, we're doing disaster relief after hurricanes and tornadoes. And when we're not doing that, we're building Caleb House, which is our restoration facility for juvenile human trafficking survivors. Caleb with a K, calebhouse.org, which right now has donor matching going on now through the 10th of July. Every dollar that's donated to help us build our restoration facility is matched 1-for-1 up to $250,000. So if the Spirit convicts you, calebhouse.org. If it does not, no hard feelings. Mazel tov. Pour into something else. Okay. And please continue to keep both the kiddos and the teams at Caleb House and at Grindstone in prayer. There's a lot of work that takes place behind the scenes that I will never be able to talk about or show you on camera. And those people need constant covering. Do you still carry the medical bucket? Of course, Miss Cluck Cluck. We have a wound care bucket. We have a postpartum bucket, a baby birthing bucket, and a surgical bucket. So which one of the 4 medical buckets from Refuge Medical do you refer to? We have all of them. Check it out. It's at the website. Link is in the description. Promo code is Bear Nation for free shipping. Let's pray. That's the most important thing we're going to do today, right? Oh, good morning, Father Yah. Father, thank you for letting us wake up today. And Father, thank you for the myriad blessings that we just take for granted. Father, all the people who are out there who are going through some stuff right now, and there are many, I pray that you would please minister to them, that you would meet them in their time of need, that this would, whatever this issue might be, that it would just be a speed bump on the road of life, and that you would use it as an opportunity to build witness and testimony because you're sovereign over all things. Father, if there are medical concerns, please be with the medical professionals, the nurses, the doctors. Be indwelt in the room and bring peace and understanding and joy. Be that possible. Bring miraculous healing that could be only you, again, to build witness. Father, if they're financial, please give us this day our daily bread. And lead us not into temptation. Happen for the people who are depending upon you today, Father. if they're mental or spiritual matters, please minister to the hearts and the minds of the people within the sound of my voice. Convict and send messengers. Father, yeah, please bless these people. Father, please remember us as we remember you. There's just so much stuff going on. So please keep us focused on you, things that matter. A relationship with you by the covering of blood of your Son. A relationship with our families. Our relationships with the people to our left and to our right who matter to us, Father, that you've brought into our lives for reproof and instruction and for joy and love and blessing. Father, please help us love you with everything that we've got. And Father, please help us love our neighbors as ourselves. Father, put a hedge of protection around these people that no weapon formed against them shall prosper. And if there's anything within the sound of my voice that is not of you, I rebuke it in the name of Yeshua Mashiach and command it to flee. Father, please continue to build us up. Give us strength and power and authority in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach to be your hands and feet and do many mighty works in your name. Pour out your Ruach HaKodesh for wisdom and discernment, that we would speak your words to your people in your time, at your will. And Father, please deliver us peace that surpasses all understanding, and that we would count it all joy as we fall into various trials, proving of our faith. Father, please remember us today as we remember you, and please make your face to shine upon these people. I lift them up and I lay them at your feet and ask that you would protect them today, provide for them today, and bless them today. In Yeshua's name, amen. All right. It's Wednesday. Go be the light. My old man used to say on occasion, tie them boots tight, it's ass kicking day. So I guess tie those boots tight. It's ass kicking day. I will see y'all when I see y'all. Shalom.